Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle something that's so much a part of our lives, we barely even notice it anymore. Money.
So let's just start with a puzzle that's kind of hiding in plain sight. I mean, really think about it for a second. Why is this piece of paper, or, just a number on a screen, worth anything at all?
Well, you might think it was some brilliant invention or maybe a government decree, but nope. The story of money is actually way more interesting. It's a tale of, well, accidental genius, a solution that just sort of happened to solve a really, really old problem. And to get it, we've got to go back in time to a world without money.
Okay, so first up, the problem with barter. To really get why money is so brilliant, you have to picture a world without it, a world of just pure barter. Economists have a term for this. They call it direct exchange.
And on the surface, this sounds simple enough, right? I've got something you want, you've got something I want, we trade, boom, everyone's happy. Easy.
But here's the catch, and it's a huge one. For that trade to work, you need what's called a double coincidence of wants. It's not enough for me to want what you have. You also have to want what I have, right then and there. And honestly, that's a logistical nightmare. All right, let's make this super clear with a quick example. Picture 3 farmers, okay? Anderson has an axe and he really wants a bull. Brown's got a bull, but he's looking for some chickens. And then there's Chambers, who has the chickens, but he wants an axe. You see the problem? They're all stuck. No direct trade could make everybody happy. They're at a total standstill.
So how do they get out of this mess? Well, it's not like they all sat down for a big meeting. Nope. It just takes one of them having a clever and frankly self-interested idea.
And this is where the magic happens. Anderson has this light bulb moment. He realizes, hey, I don't need to get the bull in one go. He makes a 2-step trade. First, he trades his axe, which Chambers wants, for chickens, even though he doesn't want chickens himself. Then, he takes those chickens over to Brown and swaps them for the bull he wanted all along. And just like that, the puzzle is solved. Anderson gets his bull, Brown gets his chickens, and Chambers gets his axe. Everybody wins.
You see what happened there? In that single moment, the chickens became what we call a medium of exchange. Our farmers didn't invent anything. They stumbled upon this incredible power of indirect exchange. It was a discovery, not an invention.
Okay, so a simple good like chickens can solve this tricky problem. But how do we get from chickens to the money we use today? Well, it all boils down to this one really important idea: liquidity.
Yeah, the economist Carl Menger pointed out that even in a world of pure barter, some things are just easier to trade than others. They're more saleable, or as we'd say, more liquid. Just think about it, right? A house is super valuable, but it's a real pain to sell quickly for its full price. It's illiquid. But something like corporate bonds, you can sell those almost instantly. That's liquidity.
So what happens next is this amazing positive feedback loop. The more people start accepting a specific good for trade, the more useful it becomes for trading, which makes even more people accept it. It just snowballs. Pretty soon, even people who don't want the good for themselves will take it, because they know for a fact they can easily trade it away for something they do want. And, people aren't dumb. They naturally started to prefer goods that had other really useful properties for this job. You want something that's not going to rot, right? Something durable. You want to be able to break it into smaller pieces for smaller purchases. That's divisibility. And you definitely don't want to be lugging around something super heavy. I mean, eggs might be easy to trade, but come on, they fail on pretty much every other count. And this explains so much. It's why, all over the world, in totally separate cultures that had no contact with each other, precious metals like gold and silver just emerged as money. It wasn't a coincidence. They're durable, you can divide them, they're easy to carry, and an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. They just ticked all the boxes. Okay, this all makes sense for stuff that's useful on its own, like gold for jewelry. But it brings us to a much deeper, much trickier puzzle, especially when we think about the paper money we use today.
And here it is, the big chicken and egg problem that completely stumped early economists. Think about it. Why do people value money? Well, because it has purchasing power, right? You can buy stuff with it. Okay, but why does it have purchasing power? Because people value it. See? You're just going in a circle. The value of money seems to depend on the value of money.
The economist Ludwig von Mises summed it up perfectly. He basically said it's totally illogical to explain the value of money by pointing to the demand for it when the demand for it is based on its value. It just seemed like this unbreakable logical loop. How can you explain the value of something whose only use is that it has value?
But Mises, he was the one who cracked it. He broke the circle by adding one crucial ingredient that everyone else was missing: time.
So here's the genius of it. Mises said we're looking at it all wrong. We don't accept money today because of what it's worth today. We accept it because we remember what it was worth yesterday. My expectation that a dollar will have value tomorrow is based entirely on the fact that it had value yesterday and the day before that. What Mises did was show how you can literally trace this chain of value back through time. So today's dollar is valued for its purchasing power. But go back to, say, 1970, and that dollar was valued because you could actually redeem it for gold. And why was gold valued? Go back even further, and it was just a useful commodity for jewelry, for industry. So that very first day someone accepted gold, not to wear, but to trade, they only did it because they already knew its value as a useful good the day before. That's it. That's the historical anchor for all of its future value as money.
Okay, so this isn't just some abstract history lesson. This way of thinking about money has a huge consequence for us right now. It explains why creating new money isn't neutral at all, and why it affects every single one of us differently.
Right, so when new money gets created, it doesn't just magically appear in everyone's bank account at the same time. It's not spread evenly like butter on toast. Instead, it gets injected at specific points. It's more like dropping a rock into a pond. The people closest to where that rock drops, say big banks or government contractors, they get to spend that new money first while prices are still low. But as that money ripples out through the economy, it pushes prices up. By the time that new money finally gets to you and me, our purchasing power has already gone down. Our savings just don't buy as much.
So the bottom line is this: changing the money supply is never neutral. It doesn't just raise all prices equally, it's a systematic redistribution of wealth, from the people who get the money last to the people who get it first. Plain and simple, it creates winners and losers.
And all of this brings us to one final, really big thought. If money isn't just some economic tool, but a social institution built on our shared memory and our trust, if its value is really anchored in history and our collective belief, then what happens when that belief starts to fray? What happens when the story we all agree on begins to change?